Thanks for staying on the program. Now, the New Patriotic Party has suspended the filing of nomination ahead of its parliamentary primaries. The exercise, which should have taken off today, was rescheduled until the National Council meets over the controversial aspects of the guidelines. One of the guidelines which has come under fire is the barring of male aspirants from contesting sitting female members of parliament. But a planned National Council meeting has been postponed from Monday to Wednesday.
We're supposed to have a meeting of National Council to review some of the decisions that we took at NEC level. That I do know very well. As to whether or not our calendar that came out, that by 24th of May, we should be having our primaries, or we should at least have a chunk portion of our primaries. Bear in mind that we've intended to stagger, you know, the holding of the primaries, region by region, constituency by constituency. If it could be that in one region, some constituencies will not do the same day, we decided to stagger them. But we are saying that by the 24th of May, we should at least be able to do almost all. If not all, I mean, what will be left will not be that much and all that. That one has, we don't have much of a problem with it in you. Again, we've also given some filing fees that they need to pay, or candidates will need to, or would have to pay as you know, their filing fee and all that as part of the process. However, we've not had so much of a problem on it, but it's all part of the decision that we took at NEC. Maybe there's going to be some revision on some of these matters and all that. So what I do know for sure is the decision on the affirmative action. Okay. Whether or not women alone should contest the women's seats, that is where we had a bit of a problem. We're going to look at them and see if the need be for us to review our, to rescind our decision. We'll rescind. That is in the wisdom of the higher body, as it were.
You were supposed to revisit the issues in the NEC meeting, which you say you are supposed to be holding. Is it today? When?
Indeed, it was supposed to be today, but it has been postponed to Wednesday.
To next week, Wednesday.
Just Wednesday.
This very Wednesday. And what are we expecting out of this meeting?
Well, I wouldn't like to jump the gun. The point is that there's going to be some series of discussions in that meeting, and I believe that we're going to reach a conclusion where all will be accepted. A conclusion where we all accept, you know, to be the matter or to be the decision that we or the party is taking. So to say that this will happen, that will happen, I would actually be jumping the gun. I will not be too sure what is going to be discussed there. But what I do know is that there's going to be a relook at the decision that we took at NEC, but not pertaining to the dates of the primaries not at all.
Okay, but going forward in terms of preparation and all those let me say criteria regarding the nominations and filing, how are you seeing the response? What are the kind of responses you people are receiving from let me say aspirants or interested candidates? Well,
as I told you, like I said, I was doubtful of the postponement of the date for the election. We did also take a decision as a body at NEC that by the 27th of this month, which was I think last Friday, okay, all interested party executives who wish to contest the primaries will resign or should resign. Indeed, they have done that. Okay. I'm aware that many have resigned. Chairman for Colleague Cloté, I think it was on front page of Delegate or something. We have had an organizing the Ashanti region. We've had many of them resigning to contest the primaries to become, you know, parliamentary candidates and all that. So that decision holds, and people have done that, have resigned and actually to move on. And that's what I'm saying, that the date also may hold or holds as well. Let's not forget all the decisions that we took. Both the affirmative action, even though they did not actually go down well with the people, still holds until otherwise happen at the National Council. So for me, now we have a decision as a party, but at National Council, when the review is done, and then we will look at some of these things, then of course we are going to have...
Is there any special reason why you are moving the NEC meeting from today to Wednesday?
Very well. You see, the Constitution is very clear. Our party chairman convenes a meeting, you know, and as and when he thinks that yes, there are a lot of issues to look at, or he receives some calls from the party members or elders, as it were, in his wisdom he can call for a meeting. It was originally slated to be today, but the reason that informed the postponement indeed is within the bosom of my party chairman and some elders of the party. But what I do know is that by Wednesday, the National Council shall come in. Let's not also forget, National Council constitutes members from all the regions. Some would have to travel from Western region, from other places to come in. Maybe there are some challenges I can tell, okay? Maybe some other things happen to inform the postponement of the meeting to Wednesday. But by and large, I believe that the meeting will be held on Wednesday, and it's going to be a good course taken for the party.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the National Peace Council has called for dialogue in resolving NPP's affirmative action, which members are kicking against.
I think that what the NPP sought to do by trying to say that let us make sure that our women who are already in Parliament are retained, even if we are not able to add to it, it's not something bad if it is done in the light of affirmative action. The motivation, the spirit that perhaps led them to do that. What people are taking against the time and the lack of consultation, because in any democratic institution, it is expected that they would have consulted with their constituency chairman and others for them to have come to a consensus agreement before the announcement that this is what we want to do. The decision per se is in the right direction, but how it was done and the timing is what has created, the problems in the minds of people. I do not think that affirmative action per se is discriminatory. I mean, that argument, I don't buy it. We must face it. We must be realistic that we have left our women far, far behind. And for them to catch up, we need to take certain drastic measures to bring them at par, even if not at par, closer, so that women who form the majority of our population will also be able to make their contributions.
Going forward, what do you think the MPP should do?
I think what they need to do will be to go into consultation seriously with their constituency officers and the masses, to try to educate them and to let them know the implications of it, why that, and why it is necessary. They will be able to do their consultation and solve their internal problems so that this good thing doesn't really create problems for them.
Now, there is controversy over a decision by a leading member of pressure group Occupy Ghana to contest in the upcoming NPP parliamentary primaries. Posters of Mr. George Anda on social media asking people to vote for him as a candidate for the Owutu Senya West seat in the upcoming NPP parliamentary primaries has generated a lot of talk and discussion. Prior to this revelation, government spokespersons and officials have always accused Occupy Ghana of doing the bidding of the NPP. Kwache Afred Niyama of our political desk caught up with Mr. Anda to confirm his political aspiration in the following interview. Well, we'll bring you... Well, we'll bring you that conversation in a bit, but we can now speak to... We can now speak to Sidney Casely Hayford, who also happens to be a leading member of the group, and he's joined me over the telephone. Good morning, Mr. Hayford.
Oh, I think it's good afternoon at this stage.
Right, good afternoon indeed. Thank you very much. Now, what does the group think about this development?
Well, it's not a development. George has always expressed his intention to contest the Owutu Senya West constituency. The fact of the matter is he has to win the primaries first. But we in Occupy Ghana have always known that George will be contesting the seat. So it's not a new development. It's an existing ongoing development.
In times past, government persons within the NDC have accused Occupy Ghana of doing the bidding of the NPP. Now we have Mr. George Anda also going on into politics on the ticket of the NPP. How do we relate to these two?
Well, the fact is we don't have a member of the NDC in Occupy Ghana who is going to challenge for any seat. If we had, we would fully endorse that person. our quest is not for political partisanship. Our quest is simply for good governance. If we had 275 George Anders who were prepared to run and occupy seats in Parliament, we would support them because we believe that they will be there to do the good governance principle which we are trying to push. So we don't see anything wrong with it. We are fully aware that there are people who have political leanings one way or the other.
But doesn't it only translate into some form of admission what the group has been accused of in times past?
You cannot accuse the group simply because one person or two people are intending to run for a particular constituency. That is not a group. The group's policy has always been, we are political, but we are non-partisan. But where somebody decides or is a member of a political party, he is totally free to join us, for as long as he believes in the principles of what we are trying to achieve, because we do not particularly follow a party line in our decision making and in our issues which we are trying to correct. Our whole raison d'etre is about being a good governance movement, and that is simply what we are doing. It doesn't matter whether you are an MPP person, an NDC thinking person, a PPP thinking person or not. What we're trying to say is so long as you believe that by ensuring that we push forward on good governance, then you can occupy whatever position you want to do. If we say that only people who are occupied persons are showing good governance, and therefore George Anders being an NPP parliamentary candidate is an occupier and is pushing good governance, then it implies that there's nobody in the NDP who is pushing good governance.
Perhaps the perception is being that occupiers are apolitical.
Occupiers are non-partisan, but we are political. We do not particularly toe any special political line, any party line, but it is a political movement. And if you read our vision and our mission statement, it clearly states that we are a political movement. We just simply are not partisan, politically bent.
Then it brings me to the point. The fact that occupiers are not partisan. We have a leading member contesting for parliamentary seat candidacy on the ticket of the NPP. And makes me want to ask, will the group call for his resignation as a leading member? He could be a member, but not exactly a leading member.
Well, George Anders is the leading member. So am I a leading member. I tend to push an independent line. But that is political. I'm an independent political thinker.
But you're not supposed to be partisan, right? That's what your mission statement says.
Well, I'm considering joining Ekuya Donkor's party, the Freedom Party, and I suppose
will that not defeat the purpose of Occupy Ghana? If you go against your own mission statement, you can be political, yes, because it's a political group, but you shouldn't be, or you can't be partisan.
Well, now you are now shaping Occupy mission for us.
No, that's what you said.
We are not. We are saying to you all very clearly that we are a non-partisan movement. But if an individual wants to bring about change by belonging to a particular constituency or occupying a particular constituency and getting into parliament, I would rather have 275 or such thinking-minded persons rather than having nobody at all trying to make change from within parliament, which is a critical step.
Indeed. Now let's have this question answered. Will the group call for the resignation of Mr. George Anders as a leading member of Occupy Ghana?
Resignation from what position?
As a leading member. He speaks on behalf of the group. I'm sure the group is made up of a number of persons, besides those we hear of as leading members.
Well, I have been accused of being a member of the NPP. Nobody has asked me to resign.
But Mr. Keseyefo, that is very much different from contesting on the ticket of the NPP. That accusation is a whole lot different from that. We have a leading member going on contesting as on the ticket of the NPP. Will the group ask that he resigns as a leading member? He could be a member of the group still, though.
Let me try and see if I can explain this very well. Occupy Ghana has leading members. We make collective decisions and we decide on what we think would be best for us to address within the governance concept of what we are trying to do. Whether George Anda resigns or not, and we don't ask anybody to resign as to being a leading person. George Anda has to make a decision as to the best way forward that he can carry his views into governance. And we know that if we have a George Anda who is in Parliament, we will get a very, very strong voice in Parliament, which will enable us to make sure we bring about the change that we require. Now, he has to do so in a way that he chooses. And in this season, to do it on the ticket of an MPP constituency.
But
which he thinks
personally,
sure.
Personally, will you advise Mr. Anda to resign as a leading member of the group?
It's not my personal choice. We have a team, and that team works together. And as of now, the team has not met to decide on whether or not we take a particular stand. So I personally will not make a view until I've discussed it with my team members and we decide which way to go. But we have discussed the issues of whether people who are within Occupy Ghana tag or seen or want to be tagged, or as the NDC prefers to be, to take up as opposition members, and that we are doing the bidding of their supporters.
Now, for some people,
and we don't see anything wrong with it.
For some people, this will tell a lot on the reputation of Occupy Ghana. What's your response to that?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because Occupy Ghana will continue to do exactly what it is going to do. And as we have decided in the realm of good governance, we met with the Auditor General just a few days ago. We have, because we think it is the way to bring about change. Whether George Anda becomes an MPP, a member of Parliament or not, is not going to change whether or not we carry on pursuing our objective in trying to get the Auditor General to disallow and surcharge anybody who is corrupt. It won't change that principle.
I'm grateful for your time, Mr. Casely Hayford. Sydney Casely Hayford is also a leading member of the pressure group Occupy Ghana. Now, I was telling you earlier that my colleague, Kwachi Alfred Nyama, engaged in a conversation with Mr. George Anda, who is also a leading member of the pressure group Occupy Ghana, and intends to contest on the ticket of the NPP for the Ewutu Senya West constituency seat.
I think there have been different things that I've wanted to do at different times in my life. And when I moved out of regular corporate, or when I was preparing to move out of regular corporate, the next thing that I desired to do was to serve my country. And so I'd say maybe about 4 or 5 years. I believe first and foremost I'm a Ghanaian. I'm a Ghanaian who wants to serve. There's nothing that makes Occupy Ghana as a group an MPP group. There are individuals that may have certain political or partisan associations, but that has nothing to do with what Occupy Ghana represents as a group. Occupy Ghana has said over and again that we are a political movement, but we are non-partisan. We believe in certain values. We believe in right being right and wrong being wrong, and irrespective of whichever government is in place, Occupy Ghana's stand on those issues would remain the same. We're fighting for good governance, and we'll fight for good governance whichever government comes in place. I believe that there are certain values and principles that every true occupier lives by, and there's no way that living by those values make you any less a Ghanaian. It makes you a better Ghanaian, it makes you the new Ghanaian. And I guess that we need that crop of leaders testing the political waters and putting themselves up to serve the country. What is the news with Occupy Ghana that a Ghanaian that believes in right being right and wrong being wrong is standing for political power? I don't see that as big news. That a Ghanaian that believes that sitting on the fence is no longer an option, and so he decides to get into the thick of things and tries to fight, not physically fight, but tries to get involved to make Ghana work. I don't see that as being news. I guess it's just being used for mischief for those that want it to be a distraction.
Thank you very much for staying on. A group of fishermen along the coast of Ghana this morning besieged the premises of the Fisheries Ministries to register their displeasure with the dissolution of the Premix Committee. The fishermen are asking for the resignation of Fisheries Minister Shari Ayite because they claim she is incompetent. Ekosam was there and now joins me with more. Thanks for being here. Now, what exactly are the grievances, those concerns they shared with you?
Well, they are saying that somewhere last week they read on the news portal that Mr. Alote Jacobs is saying that there's some bits of diversion of fuel that goes to the landing beaches, and then they also said that there was a lack of accountability on the part of the fishermen, and then they also said that anytime they were refueling their canoes, there was a bit of chaos over there. So these were the three allegations that had been leveled against the fishermen. Now, this morning at the Fisheries Ministry, they came there in their numbers. I could count as many as 7 or 8 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter buses, and then there were some Ovan and some Toyota Hiace buses over there. The fishermen would number more than 100 people clad in cloth. I believe that is the customary wear for the fishermen. So they came there in their numbers and they were asking that these allegations, as they put it, were unfounded and untrue. And they are also asking for the resignation of the Minister of Fisheries, Shari and Ayite, and that is because they are saying that she's incompetent and she's allowing Alote Jacobs to meddle in the affairs of the fishermen. And so they are also asking that the Premix Fuel Committee that was dissolved about a week ago to be reconstituted. What I'm also hearing is that it has been reconstituted, but they may start work in April. We could now listen or watch Ebenezer Mate Mansfield. He's the secretary of the Landing Beach Committee at Ninyano. Let's watch him and listen to what he says.
Convey fuel from Tema Oil Refinery to the pumping stations at the various landing beaches have been fitted with electronic tracking devices. And therefore, from Tor to the landing beaches, these vehicles are closely monitored. So if he is saying that there are diversions going on, I don't think it holds water. In the sense that once the vehicles are closely monitored, there is no way any vehicle can divert the fuel. Where we have national security, MPA, to mention a few. Then the second point was that there is lack of accountability. During the early part of 2014, the National Premix Committee, the headquarters brought a team of auditors, and they moved from landing beach to landing beach for him to make this unfounded, baseless, and argument that will not augur well for the government. I believe it is about time he moved from one landing beach committee to another to ascertain for himself what really happens. But he should not sit at Cape Coast and be daydreaming. In fact, whatever he's doing now, it is not only going to affect him, but it will affect the fishermen and then the government as well. There were rumors that any man from the time that we read the information on the web, the National Premix Committee will be dissolved. And lo and behold, the Minister of Fisheries, Ms. Shari Ayite, has carried on to the threat that was earlier on issued by Alote Jacobs. All that we are saying is the 3 allegations that were raised by Alote Jacobs and his people are baseless, unfounded. In any attempt to remove these people at the national headquarters who have lived with us cordially will spell a great doom for the party.
Derek Ekosam, who's been following this story, is still here with us. Why do they think the fisheries minister is incompetent?
Well, they are saying that she isn't working as they expected to, and that she's not championing the cause of the fisher folks along the coast as they expect her to. So they would want somebody who is more competent or who has knowledge in the fisheries sector to rather head the fisheries ministry.
Well, they also shared with you a challenge that comes with the dissolution of the Premix Committee and issues around the London beaches. Tell us.
Well, they said that 53% of the money accrued from the Landing Beach Committee was given back to the communities, and they used that to pay for their national health insurance scheme. They also build schools and marketplaces from this amount of money. And so should these committees be dissolved, they would have a little bit of underdevelopment along the coastal areas. And so they are asking that the minister steps in, and also the minister does not allow Mr. Alote Jacobs to meddle in their affairs, because they believe that she is listening too much to Mr. Alote Jacobs, to the detriment of they who are the fishermen. And also they are also asking that the minister does a lot more to help them than they are doing now.
The same minister they want to resign.
Maybe before she leaves office, as they wanted.
Essentially, how did the ministry react to the visit of these fishermen?
Well, when you say a visit, it gives it much more of a milder effect.
Okay.
They were very aggrieved. They were extremely angry because they said that they are working and it looks like they are not getting value for their money. Well, they went upstairs. They were called into a meeting. We understand that the minister herself wasn't around. It was her deputy, Honorable Benita Seno Kitibia, who received the petition. And from what we gather, she said she wouldn't speak until her boss speaks.
Indeed, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much for the update. Derek Ekosam covered the story where several fishermen had besieged the premise of the Fisheries Ministries over the dissolution of the Premix Committee. Now, the Ghana Medical Association has threatened to embark on a series of industrial actions if government fails to resolve the issue of conversion difference by the end of May 2015. In a statement read by the president of the association, he says doctors and the public sector continue to suffer from reduced pensions due to the unwillingness of government to pay the conversion difference. Dr. Kwabena Opoku-Ejuse wants government to take a critical look at the issues before the stipulated dates. A report by Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin.
The association says it would fiercely resist any attempt by the government to use court processes to deny what is due them.
The GMA will not also be cowed into submission by any attempt by government to use court processes as a refuge to avoid its obligations towards us, as done in the past, and will fiercely resist this. The GMA will not be gagged by these strategies. The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Labour Commission, and for that matter, government, who have all connived to get us into this unacceptable situation, are called upon to take this matter of conversion difference and reduced pensions very seriously and address same by the end of May 2015.
Another concern raised by the public sector doctors is the implementation of the Health Bill 2015, seeking to deepen the decentralization and devolution. According to them, its current state is fraught with problems which are likely to create chaos when implemented.
The Health Bill 2015 that seeks to deepen the decentralization and devolution, putting the health sector completely under the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, as exists currently, is fraught with problems such as distortions, duplication of rules, etc. Implementation in its current form will create further chaos in the health sector. The GMA takes this opportunity to appeal to the Review Task Force and Parliament to suspend any attempts at passing the bill into law for further broad stakeholder consultations to perfect this bill.
About 150 doctors who were inducted early this year are at home unemployed. The association believes their services in the health sector could reduce the patient-doctor ratio, which currently stands at 10,000 patients to one doctor. Dr. Kwabena Opoku-Ejuse is urging government to also address the situation.
The GMA would like to express its dissatisfaction about the manner in which management of house officers, housemanship training is currently being handled in this country. Doctors who started our job 7 months ago have still not been paid their salaries. Posting of most second-year house officers is still in limbo, which implies that these doctors have no idea where to continue their training. About 150 doctors who completed medical school last year and were inducted in January this year are still at home unemployed in a country where patient-to-doctor ratio is still more than 10,000 to 1. The GMA therefore calls on the Ministry of Health, the Medical and Dental Council and government to take a critical look at management of housemanship training of doctors in this country and address the pressing issues that are frustrating young doctors and healthcare delivery in this country.
A private management consultant is asking government to focus its attention on the services sector of the agricultural industries in a bid to improve the production capacity of that sector. Kofi Bentel says most countries in the world are producing and exporting most of their foodstuff because they have improved the services sector of the economy. He was speaking on the Super Morning Show on Joy FM.
The reason why agriculture is not succeeding is because the services sector within agriculture has been neglected. Transportation, marketing, and all those related services that go with agriculture have been neglected. So the call is a call for us to just take a look at what is going on there and then have smart policies, okay, to just push it, because ultimately it is employing more people, it is giving, you know, a source of income for families. Every one person there is feeding other people. And really, if you even take the manufacturing heavy countries, they are moving towards services, including those who are making cars and making other heavy equipment. They know that services is what is driving everything. So I'm just calling for another approach which acknowledges the trend going forward. Okay, today in China, although they are a manufacturing heavy country, the countries, that is the leaders of China, have decided that what they have to do is improve the services behind manufacturing. So China is greatly improving its export services sector, its ports, containerization systems, its cash transfer systems. Those who go to China will tell you that there's a lot of improvement in those areas. They are improving the services sector behind their manufacturing because they know that will drive that. I'm just asking that in Ghana we do similar things. One of the things I like about the Ghanaian economy is that it is very resilient. Not maybe just Ghanaians, but generally entrepreneurs and business people will always push through the odds, okay? And that is what you are seeing now. You are seeing a certain tenacity to keep going regardless of the problems that people face. We should not take that to mean that they are fine, okay? Everywhere, go to the ports, go to the hotels, look at our roads, okay? Whatever it is that service has to ride on has serious problems. Many of those problems, incidentally, happen to be due to the omissions and commissions of the public sector. So what things government is not doing or government is doing tends to, militate against the progress in that sector. The progress you are seeing, therefore, is because of people's tenacity to go regardless of the odds that they face.
You're watching Joy News today. There's more to come here to stay. You could stay on. Now, the 2015 West African Senior School Certificate Examination begins today across the country. In all, 268,771 candidates from 868 public and private senior high schools are participating in the examination at 866 centers. The figure represents an increase of 20,603 candidates over the 2014 figure of 242,162 candidates. Felix Akoyem visited a number of centers here in the capital city, Accra. He's here with me in the studio with updates on his visits. Thank you very much for being here. Where did you go?
I visited Accra Academy, Accra High School, and Laboni Senior High School.
What were your observations on this visit?
It was a calm and serene atmosphere, as you, imagine,
an exam center to be.
Yeah, as quiet as a cemetery, and there were no hitches. Everything went on smoothly. Most of them started on time, which was 8:30, and ended at 11. It was a 2.5-hour paper, which is integrated science. Yeah.
Tell us about logistics. Usually there are issues about logistical constraints and people not being able to get their papers on time. With these centers you visit, how would you describe their logistics when it comes to the exams?
Fortunately, Accra Academy is one of the depots where the exam questions are kept. And so, I spoke to the headmaster who told me the materials were delivered to the various schools on time. Yeah. And quite apart from that, everything was in place and, everything went on smoothly.
How about exam malpractice? We understand that the Examination Council has come up with new regulations in order to curb the increasing numbers of malpractices in years past. What did you observe?
There's a new regulation, and it's just one, which has been added to the old ones, and it's that if you're a student and you're caught with a mobile phone, all your papers will be cancelled. That's the new directive from WAEC.
Well, I understand that you engaged some of these students after the paper. What did they share with you?
Interesting. You ask them, how did you fare? They'll tell you it was
good.
Manageable.
Manageable?
So I asked them, what do you mean by manageable? Let's listen to them.
Right, let's do that.
It was okay, and also it was manageable. Actually, we had a mock a few weeks ago, and some of the questions dropped directly from the WASI paper, so I was able to solve everything.
It was okay. Even though we were expecting some questions that didn't appear, we were able to do it. I was able to do it.
Most of what we learned came in the paper, even though we had, difficulties remembering all that we learned. So we wrote what we could write.
I think all the questions we've been taught, so I was able to write something.
It was easy. All the things that they taught us came in, so it was quite well.
Now we're discussing the WASI, which began today. First paper has already been written. Felix Akoyam visited some centers here in the capital city. He's still here with me. Do you remember your first paper?
My first paper was, let me try and see, it wasn't social studies.
I don't remember what it felt like.
I don't remember.
It's not too long ago.
But it was a core paper.
Okay, it was long ago. But I really don't remember what paper I wrote first and what it felt like. But you also spoke with the headmistress of one of the schools. Which school was it?
Yeah, that was headmistress of Laboni Senior High School.
What did she share with you?
And she actually reiterated the fact that they are going to ensure that no student, engages in any malpractice, and any student found to be engaging in that will be sanctioned seriously. And she also told me that they had prepared the students well for the exams, and so far they've not encountered any problems. Yeah, so let's listen to her.
Right, let's do that.
Yeah, it went on smoothly without any hitch. As early as 8 o'clock, our students were seated. Examination started in earnest at 8:30. We didn't have any latecomer, and there are no absentees. So far, so good. 2 weeks before the examination started, we had been meeting them occasionally to psych them towards the examination. We went over the examination malpractices, the sanctions, the repercussions of any examination malpractice. It is the payment of school fees. We had to discuss that with them. Those who had huge amounts, we had to call their parents, discuss the mode of payments with them. So we didn't want everything to crash up during the last minute. So we started early, and so far the responses from the parents and the students have been good.
Felix, were any absent students recorded?
Not at all. In the schools I visited, there was no absenteeism. All the candidates were around. Yeah.
What happened to the usual 10 students away because they owe school fees or haven't registered the exams and the likes?
I think that has been clearly communicated to the heads of schools very well now, and so all the headmasters I spoke to told me they were not going to turn away any student away for failing to pay school fees, but what they are going to do is that if you finish and the results come in and you've still not paid, your index number or their index numbers will be sent to WAEC so that they don't access the results online.
Indeed.
But the only problem is that often the students who also fail do not come for their results, and so the school...
And then you lose the school fees. Well, thank you very much for the updates. Felix Akoyam has been speaking to us on the WASI exams. We started earlier today. And now, up next is Sports with Baba Tando here on Joy News Today. Don't go away. Well, our top stories here on Joy News today. Leading member of pressure group Occupy Ghana, George Anda, declares his interest to venture into national politics as he plans to contest the Ewutu Senya West constituency seat in 2016. Fishermen call for the resignation of Madame Shariaiti as fisheries minister over what they describe as her incompetence. For your company, my name is Kemini Nyamani. Visit myjoyonline.com for more news. Bye-bye.